We are now reading the fourth chapter of Masechet Avel Rabbati, Masechet Semachot. And this chapter, the halakha speaks of in which cases a Kohen is allowed to become impure by touching a dead body, and that stems from the way the halakha understands it, from the concept of mourning for a dear one. So, as an introduction to that, we should say that the Torah says that the Kohanim who served in the temple, were not allowed to become impure. They were not allowed to be in the presence of a dead body or under the same roof with a dead body in a way that will cause them the impurity of the dead. And the reason for that, the Torah says that they have to serve in the temple, they should not become tameh, etc. But I believe that the reason for that is that our Torah is Torah Haim, it's the Torah of life. It's not the Torah of death. And that is diametrically opposed to the culture of Egypt from where the Israelites emerged. Because when they lived in Egypt, they were familiar with the Egyptian culture and paganism. And the Egyptians believed in the existence of the soul after death, but they also believed that in order for the soul to arrive at its right place, it has to have a special guide. That's the soul sails after death through a place called the River of the Dead. And when someone departs from this world, he has to plan in advance how to sail through this river and how to give gifts to all the demons that protect all the gates and have special passwords. It's a complicated, exactly. That's why it's like bribe. That's why the pharaohs were buried with treasures. When they opened the grave of Tutankhamun and others, and they found fantastic treasures there, and the tomb raiders. This whole culture came from the fact that people were buried with things that represented their wealth, and sometimes actual food, grains and other things that could last a long time to please the dead. Now, because of that, because of the power, because of the importance of arriving at a resting place, everybody wanted to be able to sail through the river of the dead, and for his soul to find a resting place. And who was the one who could provide the people with the right guidance and get them to the place where they needed to be? The priests of Egypt. So they held tremendous power over the kings and over the population by telling them, if you want to get to your right place, you have to please us. You have to say what we tell you. We see that, for example, with someone who used it very wisely was Yosef, when his father asked him to be buried in Egypt. Buried in Canaan and not in Egypt. Yosef comes to Paro and he says, Avi ishbi'ani lemor bekivri asher kariti li be'eretz Canaan shama tikbereni. My father made me swear that I will take him and bury him in Canaan. And he says that his father referred to the grave as the grave that he dug for himself. Now, the word that Yaakov used was the grave that I purchased. But Yosef uses the word kariti, which in Hebrew could mean both to dig and to buy. So Yosef was not. So Yosef uses the word kariti, which means both buy and dig, but he's not misleading Paro because you can understand it any way you want. Why is he using this word? Because he wants to sway Pharaoh to let him go and bury his father. And he knows how much Pharaoh is concerned about getting the proper burial services for his soul to rest in the world to come. And he hints to Pharaoh, if you don't let me do what my father swore me that I have to do, then who guarantees that this will be done for you? And he does it in the presence of Pharaoh's servants, not privately. So Pharaoh must acquiesce and say, go. So in any case, this was Egypt. Egypt was a culture where the priests held the key to eternal rest. The Torah doesn't want that to happen. The Torah doesn't want people to think that you could live your life any way you want, and then when you plan your future existence, you go to the priest, you pay him whatever needs to be paid, and then he arranges for you to get the right passage to the future world. Right? Only God. It has to be directly through God. So the Kohanim are barred completely from touching a dead body. So if someone passes away, nobody can come to the Kohen and say, "Oh, come take care of the burial. Come take care." No, the Kohen is not involved. Who's going to do that? The relatives, the family, the relatives. They did that. The only exception for the Kohen is the relatives, the immediate relatives, parents, siblings, and spouses and children. Those are the cases where the Kohen is not only allowed, but sometimes obligated to take care of the burial of these relatives. And the one case where everybody agrees that the Kohen is obligated to take care of the burial is what is called met mitzvah, a dead body that is found somewhere on the road and there's no one else to take care of it. The Kohen cannot exempt himself by saying, "Oh, I'm a Kohen, I cannot become tameh, I'm allowed to walk away." It's unfortunate that in modern times, throughout our history, what the Torah didn't want to happen to the Kohanim happened to the rabbis. This is because the rabbis are now take the place of the Kohanim in helping people in their in those tragic events. So the role of the rabbi really is to give moral support and help with the process, both in teaching the halachot and the practices of mourning, but also paying attention and listening and all that. And that is an important role for the rabbi. But in some cases, the rabbi becomes just a sort of a clearinghouse for all these issues, and they and rabbis also charge for that and charge hefty sums. I get sometimes when people plan in advance, and I get someone came to me with a letter from the cemetery here or the funeral home, and they gave them like all the charges, and they see like they have synagogue fee, rabbi's fee. I said, no, remove that. We're not taking any fees. This is something that we have to do for everyone. No fees involved. And also, when I lived in California, I would sometimes get phone calls from the board of rabbis, in which I was a member, and they would say, there's a funeral, and they need a rabbi. What is your honorarium? I said, I'm not charging for funerals. If there's no one else to do it, I'll do it with my duty. But if there's someone who is related to the families, one of the family members who could speak there and officiate, I will guide them in what has to be done, because this is more personal and more important than having a rabbi come from the outside who knows nothing about the deceased and what is he going to say. So, and beyond that, beyond just the funeral itself, there are institutions where they are based solely on that, of charging people money to say Kaddish for them, to take care of them. This is not right. This is not what the Torah wanted to happen. If people provide the services and support, and on the other side, the receivers want to support some kind of charity activity that is done, it's fine, but it should not be associated that people have to pay for the right to have those services, because eventually it turns the rabbis into the gatekeepers and as business people, the gatekeepers for paradise or, God forbid, other side.
But what about if somebody doesn't have anybody to do the Kaddish for them?
Right.
And
so
then they ask if he want to do it. If he still have a mother or a father, he will ask the mother or father, "Can I do?"
Right.
And then if she said, "Yeah, sure." So
yes. So in this case, also you should.
Member of the family.
Right. In this case, it is either a member of the family.
Or right here, somebody I just met, and she said, "Can you do the Kaddish for
Right.
me?" I said, "Yeah, give me just $1." Hit the kupa, put one down there. That's
okay,
it.
So you asked her to give charity, which is fine. It's like to give charity. I'm saying Kaddish almost on a daily basis for several people who said either they don't have relatives or they said I cannot make it to the synagogue because of illness or other things on a regular basis. So I'm saying the Kaddish, but I'm not. No one is charged. No one has to give charity because this is a. And I tell him, beyond that, if you can't say Kaddish, you yourself, if you engage in an act of charity every day, a little bit here, a little bit there, or any good deed that you do, and you do it in the memory of the person who passed away, a good deed, talking to someone, giving advice, smiling. There are many ways that we could do a good deed. All these count as to enhance the soul of the niftar. But now going back to the Torah. That was important as an introduction because we'll see that this also ties into the laws of mourning. So what the Torah wanted to achieve is to separate the Kohanim from the process of burial and funerals and being perceived as being in charge of the future world of anyone. Instead, the Kohanim are in charge of the present world. They are, like I said, Torah Haim, the Torah of life. The role of the Kohen was for 2 weeks they had services in the temple, they had guards, shifts, and the rest of the year they would travel throughout the land, go from place to place, teach people, help them. Let's say, like today, you need a mezuzah, you need tefillin, you need a tutor for your child or for yourself. The Kohen should always be available. This is the way the Prophet Malachi describes it. It says, "Ki siftei Kohen yishmeru da'at v'torah yivakshu mipiu, ki malach Adonai tzevaot." The lips of the Kohen are the guardians of knowledge, in this world. V'torah yivakshu mipiu, and people will seek Torah out of his mouth because he is the messenger of Hashem. So the Kohanim, the Kohen role to be the teachers and leaders. So the Torah, the Halacha says, "Al kol ha'amur b'Torah kohen metameh." Now we got to the first halacha of Masechet of the 4th chapter of Avel Rabbati. They say for all the relatives mentioned in the Torah, the kohen should become tameh: his father, mother, son, daughter, brother, and sister, not married sister, and his wife. Rabbi Akiva Omer, all these are mentioned in the Torah. In addition, Rabbi Akiva Omer, שניים להם מתאבל ועונן ולא מטמא. This is the second generation of all these people. The Kohen should sit Shiva, should be mourning, but and also do what is called aninut. Onen is the first day. We'll see later on. There's a dispute. What is the definition of aninut? Aninut literally means sorrow. So there's extreme sorrow that they try to define it into halachic categories. So some say it lasts 1 day, some say it lasts 3 days, some say it lasts all the way to the burial if the burial was delayed. But that is a stage called onen. So Rabbi Akiva says even in the second tier of relatives, the Kohen should be mourning, but should not become impure, should not touch the body. What is the second tier? It means the father's father, or the mother's father, meaning the grandparents, grandchildren, and half siblings of his brothers. Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar Omer, this is how it is explained in the next halacha: Avi aviv uben beno, the father's father and the son's son. Meaning that when you say that you mourn, or the Kohen mourns for the second tier, it's only with the paternal lineage, the parents, grandparents, children, grandchildren. חכמים אומרים, כל מי שמתאבל עליו, מתאבלין עמו, וכל שאין מתאבל עליו, אין מתאבלין עמו. And that is a halacha that in the past was applied not only to the Kohanim but to everyone. When it comes to the laws of sitting Shiva and mourning, and it says this: whoever you mourn for, you also mourn with. Meaning, one mourns for his wife. So if his wife is in mourning now for her relatives, he also has to be sitting Shiva. That extends the Avelut a lot, because it includes all the in-laws of the family and all of half siblings, step parents and siblings, etc. For example, one mourns for his father. His father, let's say his father got divorced and married a second wife. If his father is still alive, but his wife passed away, then the son has to, even though the son is an adult and never lived under the same roof with the stepmother, he still will have to mourn for her. Now we don't keep this halakha today. Today, the halakha and practice is that people mourn only for the direct relatives mentioned in the Torah: parents, children, siblings, and spouses. The reason that has changed is that even though some poskim, or there's an argument that claims that mourning is a biblical commandment, it is very hard to say that. We cannot say that mourning is a commandment. Think about that. How can you command someone to mourn? How can you command someone to show sorrow? If that person feels sorrow, he will have it anyway. And if he doesn't, no matter what you do, it will not cause him to feel sorrow. For example, estranged children. We have unfortunately, children who don't talk to their parents. If the parents passes away, the rabbi would come to the child and say, "You have to sit shiva." The kid says, the child says, "I'm not interested. I never felt connected." I have a more extreme situation, not estrangement because of disputes or monetary disputes, but estrangement because the father was abusive. In the case of sexual abuse, I heard more than one rabbi that argued that the child, in that case, should still sit shiva when the father passes away. And I say, no way. No way. The father, in this case, is not just a wicked person. He is a murderer. He killed his own child. Even if the child is still alive, sexual abuse stays for life, distorts person's mentality and identity, causes people to commit suicide. The child has no obligation to respect that parent, not in life, not after death. And no one has the right to come to that child and say, you have to say Kaddish, you have to sit Shiva. If the child, boy or girl, want to do that, that's up to them. But there's no obligation. So we have to just in general have the understanding that the Torah does not command anyone to mourn. The only commandment that is the mitzvah that is related to those issues is the mitzvah of becoming tameh, of taking care of the funeral. That is a commandment. The Kohen must take care of his relatives. The whole nation is commanded to take care of any dead body, so that person will not be disrespected, and our humanity in general, what we call the image of God, is not degraded. But other than that, to tell someone you are commanded to sit shiva, we cannot say that. What we do have in the Torah is a description of the practices. Back in biblical times, the most common practice was to tear your clothes, to wear sackcloth, and to put ashes on one's head, to sit to the ground. Some of the things we still do today. So back to the halakha. Why did I say all that? Because we see here that there is a practice that we don't keep today, and that is mourning for a greater circle of people. And today we don't do that. But the shift already happened in the times of the Mishnah in the 2nd century, almost 2,000 years ago. Why did this change happen? Because people moved from an agrarian society, which was based around usually the paternal family, to an urban society. The difference is between a society where everybody lives together, like one big clan. So everybody's connected. It's like one big family. So the feeling of loss is shared by everyone. If it's an uncle or an in-law, they're all close to each other. And when that's changed into people living in urban environments, a couple gets married, they move away from the parents' house and into their own place. So they become dissociated and separate. So only the people who are closely connected to them feel that sorrow. So that is the basis for Ilchot Avelut in the time of the Mishnah and how it's changed later on to what we have today. We'll stop here. Yes. Baruch Adonai, Le'olam, Amen, Ve'amen.